Hello, friends, and welcome back to Seshcast. My name is Goldilocks. This is Seshcast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. My name is Goldilocks. I think I already said that. Clearly, I'm a little stoned, and that's a great place to start any good episode. If this is your first time stopping in, welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome back. The way this works is I get a little high, and then I pick a topic, and then I get a little higher, and I talk about that topic. And that's it. That's the whole premise right there. Keeping it short and simple. Yeah. And today is kind of interesting for me because this is the latest that I've ever recorded a Seshcast. Typically, I do these pretty early in the morning. So this is the first one I've worked a full day today. I went out to dinner tonight. It's been a big day here in the Goldilocks world. Which means that I'm a little bit more amped and a little more uppity than I typically am when I record these. Because typically it's sort of like a wake and bake deal for me, and I'm still pretty down and mellow, and just not really moving at full speed. But I'm like a bowl of sativa deep. Like I said, I've had a full day, and that's kind of interesting. And I think that it is specifically interesting to this episode because I think that assortment of things, that creation of my situation, has a lot to do with the topic, the emotion that is the topic of today's Seshcast. I think that makes sense. We'll get into that here in a minute. I do want to cover what I'm smoking, and that is this adorable little chillum, a tiny little bit of double blown dicro in there. Real pretty, and was V cheap, literally the cheapest. I got this for $7.10 on a 7/10 sale at a local crap shop. I mean, it was a head shop. It's just not my favorite head shop in town, and their quality is not always the best. But they were doing this super baller sale where if you bought anything, you got anything that was cheaper than that for $7.10. Like, anything. So if you went in there and you bought yourself a $400 bong, you could get a $350 bong for $7.10, which is amazing. Like, amazing. So cool. And I did not do that. I went in there and bought a $45 pipe that was supposed to be super hard to break, quote unquote indestructible, by the brand that I was sold on. And this chillum for $7.10. And that pipe broke almost immediately. It's the only pipe I've ever bought that broke, and my roommate broke it, but that's another story. But this little guy lives on, this cute little chillum thing. So a picture of this will be on my Instagram. You can follow me there. It's just Seshcast, one word. That's when I post about new episodes. I also post the glass that I am smoking on, and sometimes the flower that I'm smoking on, if I can get it in the picture. And also on Instagram is where I do some little live streams before I start my episodes. So any day that I'm recording an episode, when I smoke the first bowl, I will typically spark up a live stream as well. So always feel free to join me on there. Never super interesting, but they happen and they exist, and you're more than welcome to stop by. So yeah, I've got literally the end of my weed, which I will talk about, I'm sure, at some point here. It's a salad bowl of Zombie Purple Kush and Pineapple Passion, which are the only two things I've been smoking on. That is just because I bought a whole lot of them. And yeah, out of this cool little chillum. So let me get to session here on Seshcast, and I hope that you can take a rip or a drag or whatever it is of whatever you have in front of you if you are seshing along with me. Thanks for stopping by. Cheers. It's going to be interesting, like, long seshing with this chillum. He is tiny, and it is technically just a one-hitter, but, man, this little guy's a monster. Like I said, I've had it since 7/10, and and 7/10, for anyone who doesn't know, let me clarify real quick, is sort of the 420 for big-time dabbers, daily dabbers or big oil heads. It was explained to me that that's because 7/10 is oil upside down, it was also explained to me that that's because that's the best temperature to dab at. I literally have no idea because I'm not a daily dabber. So if 710 is your jam, feel free to let me know why it is 710 because I don't. But anyway, um, it's a great little chillum, and it rips pretty hard and will cherry and just go for a while. So I'm stuffing the cherry every time I hit it, and I think that it's gonna get me through an episode, but we're gonna see. But I am being positive about that because the word of the day is positivity. At least that's gonna be the topic of today's episode. Which, if you read the title, you already knew. Sometimes I wonder why I wait until like I'm deep inside of these episodes to say what the topic is, because it's in the title. But whatever, no problem. Anyway, today's topic is positivity, which is really interesting for me to be talking about or to find myself talking about, because I think since the day that I was born, I have been a pessimist by nature, and I still am a pessimist by nature, but I have learned the value and the influence and the importance of living a lifestyle that includes positivity. Doesn't necessarily revolve around positivity, or center around positivity, but includes positivity. Um, and that's been really, really important to me here as I have grown these last few years and sort of matured my way into the quote unquote adulting of the young adulthoods, um, millennial things. Anyway, I've learned the importance of positivity, and I think that I intentionally lived my life for a really long time without any positivity, being almost exclusively negative. And I think that a lot of that is just because of my high school experience. My high school experience just wasn't the greatest. Bullying and bad times and sad things, whatever. I'm sure I'll talk about high school on this podcast at some point, but that's not going to be today, because if we're talking about high school, this topic is going to go from positivity to negativity right quick, and that sucks. So we're not going to do that. Anyway, I intentionally lived my life for a really long time without positivity, which was an interesting way to exist. And I think, again, a lot of what had to do with that is that I am a pessimist by nature. And so I think that I mistook pessimism for negativity. And I think that what I learned was that you can find positivity in everything, even if it is something that seems inherently negative. I guess really that was a super, super fancy, super a bold-ish plus maybe some Keef, definitely some Keef deep, and so I'm a little rambly here, but the what I'm trying to say is find the silver lining. Everything has a silver lining, and I found a silver lining in my own pessimism that allowed me to start living a life of positivity. And that has been huge. I mean, just absolutely life changing for me. And I think for a lot of people too. I think that you need to be positive or have a positive attitude, or any of those sayings have become severely cliche, and very, very overused in today's day and age. Is that, I don't know if that's right. Today's day and age. Whatever. I think that they've become super overused, and that sucks. I think it's almost made us jaded towards having a positive attitude, to really take the time to acknowledge what it means to have a positive attitude. And so I think that a lot of people have really been influenced and really had a lot of advancements, good life experiences, all of those things, because they started to live life with a little bit more positivity. But I think there is a major difference between being um, passively positive and actively positive. And I'm going to try really hard to talk about that after I hit this bowl. And I don't know if I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to remember. Here we go. Cheers, friends. This may be the most audibly boring piece that I've smoked out of. And I'm effectively lighting a cigarette and taking a drag. Because it's bowls, I feel like you can at least get a little bit when I take the carb off. And I know I piped the music in there, so you don't really hear it. But like, if you dig it apart, I'm sure you could. And then obviously like water pieces, you can hear the chug. But there's no carb on this. This is literally a cigarette, and I'm smoking it at a microphone, and that's weird. But there's I guess some stoner meta for you. Anyway, actively and passively positivity. Yeah, that's where it was. Okay. So I think that there's a big difference between being actively positive and passively positive. And I say that in a sense because I think what the world tells you, what people tell you all the time, what society will tell you is to just be passively positive. And I think that if you want to have a truly, like, to live a truly more positive lifestyle, and I'm not saying you have to be like happy-go-lucky all the time. I'll get into that too. But just like to live any kind of a more positive lifestyle, what you need to be is actively positive. And there's a big difference between those two ideas. So like I'm a pessimist by nature, and what I mean by that is that I tend to expect things to turn out the worst. That's the most general way I can say that. There's optimism and pessimism. Optimism is the present that I unwrap is going to be what I've always wanted, and pessimism is the present that I unwrap is going to be the fourth pair of socks I got this Christmas. That's there you go, plain and simple. Optimism, pessimism. So I'm a pessimist by nature. You can throw realism in there. Realism is it's going to be the present I've always wanted. Not it's going to be the fourth pair of socks. It's probably going to be the second most expensive thing that I asked for, which is awesome. And I think that, I don't know, I'll do another podcast on realism. We're not going that way. Let's stick to optimist and pessimist here. I'm a pessimist by nature. So, have I said that enough? Did you hear me? Did you know that I'm a pessimist by nature? Because believe me, I heard your brain say right there, he said that a lot. He said that literally so many times. I hear you. So trust me, I hear me too. Sorry, I annoyed myself and I needed to get that out there. Because of my pessimism, I often expect outcomes to be inherently negative or to be the worst option. Door number 2 has the brick wall behind it and not the open path through it that door 1 has. That's just kind of the way I think. And so growing up, that made me really kind of negative because those two things seem really, really mutually exclusive. Like, it seems like if you are a pessimist, you have to be negative. And what I learned is that is not true. That's really not true. You don't have to be negative in every way to be a pessimist. You can be actively positive. Because as I grew older and as I had a lot of life experiences and I took a lot of time, let myself learn, which is another big thing. Like, all of these events will happen to you in your life, but you have to let yourself learn at some point. Like, you just gotta suck it up and be like, that was wrong. and I need to take the lesson from that. And what I let myself learn was that being negative was making negative outcomes happen. It was making the worst things happen to me because I was almost, in a way, willing them into existence. And I'm going to get to that more after I hit this bowl. Cheers. So, oh boy. Huh. All right. Okay. Oh, we're back. We're good. All is well. All is well. Oh man. Willing into existence. That's where we were. I'm back. We good. We got it. Um, being so negative was making my life turn out in a negative way. When in reality, even though I can expect things to end badly, even though I can look for the worst situation, I now in my actively passive, or excuse me, my actively passive. Wow, that's the way my brain feels right now. That last hit made me actively passive, like my brain is trying to not do anything, and it's making it really hard to record this podcast. So I do apologize because we are, oh my lord, we are less than 20 minutes in. We are not even halfway. All right, that's where we are now. So anyway, let me bring it back here. Because I was being pessimistic, was being negative enough to force myself to perceive outcomes as inherently negative. And if that was incredibly convoluted, let me try to explain that again. I expected bad things to happen. And so no matter what happened, I looked at them in the worst way. And that was, in a sense, defeating the most positive aspect of being a pessimist. Because if you are really pessimistic by nature, and I try to explain this to people because I don't think that many people are just straight up pessimistic. And so I want to explain to other people, like, it's not necessarily bad to be pessimistic. Just if that's the way that you process through things, that's okay, but you have to learn to find the positives in the way that you process. So I was expecting things to be bad, and so whatever happened, I made them bad. But in reality, if you are a pessimist, let me start over. The best part about being a pessimist is that, in a sense, you're never disappointed. And what I mean by that is you look at a situation and you think, this is the worst outcome. Let me prepare for that outcome. Whether it's mentally preparing yourself or physically preparing yourself, whatever. And so when you go through the thing, whatever that thing may be, it was like an aftershock cough. Earthquake left, but the aftershock still knocked the pictures off the wall. Crap. I forgot what I was talking about. Dang. That was a good one, too. So in reality, when you go through the thing and the thing ends up not being as bad as you expected it to be, you get to experience all the positives in that. You get to say, like, wow, I really over prepared myself for this, and it didn't end up being that bad, and thus I got to enjoy it more. Or wow, I was really over prepared for that, and even though it was not as bad as I was expecting to, being really over prepared helped, and I really enjoyed being over prepared. Or wow, that thing was just as difficult as I expected it to be, but luckily I was prepared, and so I got through it okay. And that is the positive side about being a pessimist by nature. And that's really cool, like to be able to experience things in those way, or excuse me, to be able having having been able to experience things in that way has given me a much finer appreciation for the positive things that happen in my life. So when things go right, when things turn out better than I expect them to, I really get to almost revel in that and be like, man, this was so great. This was so awesome. And so sometimes I end up going through things that weren't as bad as I expected them to be, and everyone around me hated that experience. But because it ended up better than I expected it to, I kind of had fun, or I kind of enjoyed it, or whatever it may be. And that's cool. And that is the kind of positivity that I think is active, is searching for the positivity in things that are not inherently positive. Like, it's always positive when you find $20 in a pair of pants that you washed and it came out of the dryer and you didn't expect it, or in a coat pocket that you put away last winter, or whatever. You find $20, you find $20, and that's awesome. But then there are other times where things happen that aren't inherently positive. You miss the bus, or you're running late to work. I don't know, whatever it may be, and searching for the positivity in those moments is the kind of positivity that really makes a difference. And it's just so weird for me to hear myself say that, because I spent so much of my life saying the exact opposite. Like, gosh, until I graduated college, in a way, I always told myself that the worst things were the worst things. They were the worst things, and anything was the worst thing. But it doesn't have to be that way. And finding the active positivity in all things can just be so incredibly beneficial. And it's cool. And I really like it. And I want to talk more about it. And I also want to take another rip of this. And so I'm going to compromise and do both. But I'm going to hit this first. Cheers. Sometimes I get excited because I do a really cool smoke trick. I'm like, man, so many people on the internet are going to get to see this. And then I remember I'm a podcast. That's dumb. Sorry. So it's cool. It's cool to be actively positive. And I say that because I have found that a lot of people really grow and benefit from active positivity, myself included. And it, like I was saying, it helps you enjoy things, and it helps you just it helps you just get through life in a less painful way. And I think that ended up coming out of my mouth really heavy, like very, very dark, and I didn't mean it to. I'm sorry. I think that life has a lot of struggles. I think that that's a very, like, a very central tenet of Buddhism. Me, the white dude who took one Buddhism class in college, saying something about Buddhism like I know what I'm talking about. I am sorry, but I think that that's real. Like, I think that's a real thing. That life is suffering. I think that's a pretty big tenet of Buddhism, or something. And that's something that I think is really true. You can't get through life perfect. Nobody has a perfect life. Everybody struggles with something. Everybody has things, man. And sometimes your things are much worse than somebody else's things. Sometimes your things are nothing compared to somebody else's things. But your things are your things. Like, I try to tell this to people too, that, like, somebody else's suffering or somebody else's problems don't make your problems less of your problems. You know, it should put things into scale for you. Like, if you had a really terrible day because you spilled a cup of coffee, and your neighbor had a really terrible day because they got diagnosed with cancer, you should be able to acknowledge that your neighbor had a worse day than you. But the thing about it is that every like everybody's problems are valid. Everybody's struggles are their own struggles for their own reason, and it's nobody's right or job or ability to talk down on someone and like dismiss somebody else's struggles. It should more be about putting to scale their struggles, and if they're being really cocky and kind of a jerk about it, then like scaling their troubles is always great. Because yeah, like I have a lot of bad days, and I look at some of my friends and I think, man, they're having a really bad day, and their bad day is so much worse than mine, and I feel really terrible for them for that. But that doesn't make me feel any better. And there's no reason beating up on myself for that. And like everybody's problems are their own problems, whatever those problems may be. So if like, if you spilling that cup of coffee on your way to work this morning just set off a whole chain of events, then yeah, spilling a cup of coffee might have given you the worst day of your life. And like, if you tell someone you had a bad day because you spilled a cup of coffee, they may never believe you. And that's not right. Like, we should acknowledge that when people have negative experiences from things, that it was negative for them. And that sucks. So I don't really know how I got here to this little tangent. I'm sorry. I'm sure I came here with a purpose. I'm not going to go back and remember what it was. We're going to plow on through here. So, everybody has their struggles, period. And so everybody has these opportunities to find the positivity in their struggles, whatever that may be. And I think a lot of times all the inspirational quotes and the 300,000 retweet on Twitter pictures with sayings in them, I don't know, whatever, they'll say like, just be positive, or like, be happy, and I don't know, whatever. Like, I think that there's a difference between like, well, I'm being positive, like I'm just positive and happy all the time, and thinking to yourself, this situation really sucks and I hate it. But I see that this little bit of it is positive, and I acknowledge that, and I'm going to hold on to that, and that's going to help me process through this situation. Like that's the passive positivity versus the active positivity. Passive being you're just happy to be happy because you think if you're happy, everything will be happy. And I think that often if you're just passively positive, that is what's going to really, really crash and burn and really going to send you into a more negative place, opposed to if you are that actively kind of positive, where you are in a sense a realist, thinking like, this is the way this situation happened, this is why this sucks, and I hate it, and I wish that it didn't happen this way, but I know that it happened this way, I get that it happened this way, and I see the positivity and why it happened this way. And I see the positivity in how it happened, or I see the positivity that I can get from something that happened because this happened, and I'm gonna hold on to that and move forward with it. And I want to like clarify that I think there's a big difference between that and everything happens for a reason, because I really don't like the phrase everything happens for a reason. Again, that's another podcast topic, I'm sure, but it's just not something that I feel very good about. But my compromise with that statement is that there are positives in all things. Like, I don't think that saying this really terrible thing happened and it caused kind of positive thing, which totally eliminates the negative thing, is really healthy or helpful to anyone. And that's how I hear everything happens for a reason. When in reality, I think, like something negative happens, but there's also a positive piece of that. And you take that positivity and you roll through with it, but you don't lose that negative. I mean, you acknowledge that negative still happens and it still sucks. And so I think that everything happens for a reason piece is asking people to be passively positive. Everything happens for a reason is just saying, like, be happy because you want to be happy, and that'll make you happy. Yeah, and it'll all end up happy eventually. I don't know, whatever. Whereas, like, there's a positive in all things. You're just acknowledging, like, I can find the positive piece of that, and I'm going to carry through with it. Sorry, I know I said that was going to be another topic or another podcast topic, and I just kind of went for it. Sorry, that's just kind of the mood I'm in. Recording these when I have more energy is very interesting, as opposed to in the morning. Whatever, man. Let me hit this. Cheers. Ooh, that was a big one. That was a big one. That comes with the drink. That was one of those hits that, like, I don't know, it just reminded me that, like, hey, by the way, man, you're getting kind of close to the end of this. You might want to wrap that up. That helped. It's a quick drink here. I was listening back to one of my podcasts. Said this in another podcast. Not going to put music over the drinks unless it's gross listening to myself swallow. So if I listen back to this, I'm like, man, that sounded gross. I'll fix it, I promise. So I want to talk about why I wound up with this more positive lifestyle here real quick. And if 2 + 2 does not equal 4 for you, it was because of weed. Straight up, like, cannabis changed the way that I perceive the world, 100%. And it's weird. I had this conversation with a buddy this week, which is kind of what gave me the topic idea for this podcast. And I don't mean to make that out as some, like, real hippie statement of, like, the weed, man. Once you smoke the weed, like, everything just gets better, man. You'll see the world, like, it'll be beautiful, and everything will just be so great and good, man. Just smoke the weed. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, like, I've dealt my whole life with a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of other mental health issues. And like I said, like I said earlier, I spent most of my life finding the most negative piece of everything that happened to me. Because the first time I smoked helped with my anxiety so much and so drastically, the first, like, couple months smoking were some of the first times that I ever felt like I wasn't anxious, and that was just huge for me. And so that helped me, like, grow and learn a lot. So going back to what I said, that cannabis changed the way I view the world, what I don't mean is that, like, I smoked my first joint and then my third eye bloomed and I saw nirvana. That's not what I mean. Because if smoking weed got you to see nirvana, then I would get Kurt Cobain's autograph, and that's the only thing that I want. But no, like, it just it helped me get to a point in my own mental health that I was able to learn life lessons that helped me see the world differently. That's how that progression happened. It wasn't like a whoa or anything like that. But what cannabis helped me with, like I said, was to get to a point in my life where I could learn lessons and learn the benefits of positivity. Because if you don't smoke, I'm about to explain something to you. If you do smoke, but just reach back into your brain with me. Do you remember the first time you ever actually got high? Do you remember how cool that was? How amazing that was? For whatever like, and okay. I know, somebody out there is gonna hear this and be like, my first time getting high was the worst, man. It's not like that, and I'll get torched in some internet comment somewhere if this ever gets big. Whatever, I don't care. Like, be positive with me here for a second. It's the name of the episode. Remember the first time you got high, and like the first time you heard your favorite songs stoned, or the first time that you ate your favorite food stoned? Like, remember those moments. Just how awesome was that? Like, I think it was the first time that I watched a stand-up comedy special when I was really high. It was I've never laughed that hard in my entire life. Like, it was amazing. And you have those moments that are just so overwhelmingly positive. And because I wasn't so anxious because I was stoned, and because I was having an overwhelmingly positive experience, it gave me a chance to really experience and acknowledge what what positivity was and what it meant to have a good time and like for things to be really great. And that was huge. That was just so big. Because those moments were what I was then able to turn into living this more positive lifestyle. And I'm still very negative. I really am. I'm still very pessimistic. I'm not perfect at all. And I'm not saying that like this is not a 3-step plan. This is me getting high in my basement and talking into a microphone for a podcast. So I'm not trying to change the world here. Like, this is just what worked for me, and helped, but did not fix or make me perfect or anything like that. Um, you just have those moments that are so positive that it helps you apply that positivity other places, to see other things and think like, wow, that was really cool, and I really appreciate that just happened. Um, and using those moments to carry to the next moments. And so that holding on to that active positivity can carry you through the really negative stuff. Even when that stuff is super, super negative, you get those moments. Like, I went out to dinner tonight. I had a terrible day at work today, but I went out to dinner tonight at a new restaurant I had never been to, and it was delicious. And like, I love going out to eat. I really do. And sometimes you go to restaurants that are new and you're so excited and it's just so bad. Well, it's just not good. And that sucks. And I really didn't want that to happen today because I had a bad day at work. But then it was great. It was so delicious. So you have those moments that even when they're just the right amount of positive, they really do a lot to pull you through those negative times. It's just kind of crazy, and grabbing onto those moments does so much, so much, just to get you through the really negative stuff, and that's really cool. I feel like I should start to wind down here at some point. I've gone on a lot of tangents. I am sorry. Let me hit this one more time here, friends. Cheers. Oh boy. So thank you for coming around. I should have made a much bigger deal about this in the beginning of my podcast. I'm available in a lot of places. Not really a lot, honestly. Instagram, iTunes, SoundCloud is where I'm at right now. And I feel like I should have said that at the beginning of the episode, but I always get kind of weird because, like, if you're listening to my podcast, you found me somehow. So, like, I don't know if I need to tell you where to find me. Whatever. Follow me on Instagram if you want to. Follow me on SoundCloud if you want to. subscribe to me on iTunes if you want to. I have a very positive attitude about this podcast. I think it's fun. I enjoy doing it, and I hope other people enjoy it too. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I really appreciate your time getting to this point anyway. And thank you for coming by. But if it is for you, feel free to stick around and keep coming back. And either way, if you know somebody else who might be into this weird little thing that I'm doing, feel free to let them know as well. It'd be much, much appreciated. I do think that I am going to get out of here. So I guess to wrap, I don't even really know. It's weird because like I'm always so high by the time I finish these episodes. I never remember how I finish episodes. I remember how I start episodes, which is why they all start sort of similarly, but they all end weird because I'm always really high by the time I finish an episode. So I don't remember how to finish episodes. So I'd give you a preview of next week if I knew what I was going to talk about next week. I got to get high a week from now and I'll let you know. But there will be a new episode next week. And that'll be really cool. And I hope that you enjoy that. And I hope that you enjoyed this. And I hope that you enjoy whatever it is you're doing and whatever it is that's going on in your life. And even if you don't enjoy it right now at all, I level with you. I feel it. But try and find something and enjoy that little thing, even if it's good dinner out at a new restaurant, because that's really cool. I'm going to bounce. Let me cheers on out of here. Cheers. My name is Goldilocks. This has been Seshcast. Thank you so much for listening.